Good morning, friends. How are you today? It's a gorgeous foggy morning, as you can see, out at the farm. Aiden is still homesick, and so I'm going to stay close today. Basically, I'm out here just to weed. It looks awful. So I am not even going to put you guys on a time lapse because you've seen that a million times, and that's just kind of boring. So what I'm going to do is listen to my audiobook, do some major grass weeding, and then I'll show you how it looks afterwards. You can see how it looks now. It's ridiculous. Just like a big grass field. So I even need to go back over the farthest ranunculus row that I did the other day last week, but that was before I was really sick. So I'll start that from scratch. One thing I did do though, I ordered some pre-burned holes, landscape fabric from Farmer's Friend, and it arrived yesterday, last evening. So I am going to bring that out, not tomorrow because it's supposed to be raining all day tomorrow and I'm getting my hair done, but probably Thursday if the rain has stopped, and I'm going to lay it down on those other beds that haven't been planted yet, and that will, even though it's a pain to plant into those holes, it will block the weeds, and it's more heavy duty than the Bio 360, and so yeah, I mean, it's a bummer that I couldn't use that because I did spend money on it, but it all blew off. There's still one bed that's covered, but the rest blew off and it's all bunched up, and then when the sun hits it, it kind of fuses together and you can't re-stretch it back out. So that's done. But it is what it is. And you know what? I'm just going to enjoy listening to my audiobook and hand weeding this morning. It's chilly, it's foggy, the fog will burn off and we'll have a nice sunny afternoon, but then it's going to be raining tomorrow and we're hoping for at least a ½ inch. I'd like to stay and do more, but I'm like shaky hungry. I definitely have to go. But I did get all the ranunculus done. So it's 2.5 rows, and I still have these other 2 rows to go, but it's looking pretty good. So hopefully you can see the ranunculus is coming up. And you know, there are some holes where it hasn't come up yet, and I did pop up by accident a couple of the corms and I just replanted them. I pulled as much of the grass, I mean, it took me a long time because I pulled as much of the grass as possible out by the root. So I went really slow to really yank it out of there. So this is looking a lot better. Yes, it'll keep coming back, but I'm hoping that if I keep pulling it out by the root, we'll have some better luck controlling it. And then over here, this was also super dense grass. Pulled all this out, and you know, there's a huge area here where most of them haven't come up yet. There's a couple, but you know, I don't know. Some of these maybe won't come up, and that's okay. I mean, 2 rows of ranunculus, I think we're gonna have plenty. And also these rows in the very back there, we've got a full row and a half, and those are coming up too. So I think we're gonna have plenty of ranunculus, which is good. But I really can't wait to get in here and clean out these snapdragons. I do still see them in there, but they'll do much better if they don't have to compete with the grass. Everything else is looking pretty good. I mean, the one nice thing about the grass is it's kind of camouflage for these plants, but definitely big root systems that'll clog out everything else. Once the rainstorm passes in the next couple days, I'll come out here with the new landscape fabric and lay it down over those 3 beds that actually 3.5 maybe that are not planted yet, and that will knock down all those weeds and I won't have to worry about that section of the farm. Also still need to get the permanent deer fence going. The ground is softer now. Hopefully after the next couple of rains we can really start getting these sleeves hammered in and get the fence up, because I want to also start building all of the raised beds out there beyond these row crops, so I can, you know, start getting ready, because when all the lilies and everything arrive, I need to get those things in the ground. So that's not until March, but that's going to happen real fast. So yeah, so I need to keep moving on this project. We're nearly done at Fish Ranch. Basically, at this point, I just need to take off the baseboards and the hip boards of the high tunnel, and then we just need to rent a trailer and pull everything out of there. So very close to being done there. All right, I'm gonna head home and get some food because I'm ravenous, and then I'm gonna go get the iron sulfate for the azaleas so I can get that down in advance of this rainstorm, and I'll show you what that is before we lay it down. Okay, so it's 2 days later. Yesterday, Wednesday, it was kind of drizzle rain all day long, and I was at the hair salon, so I didn't do any work yesterday. But now we have this little break before we're going to get more showers this afternoon, hopefully. So I'm going to lay down the sulfur that I was talking about. So this is this just happens to be the brand that we have locally. EB Stone is carried here, so I use all of their stuff because that's the brand that is locally available. There are plenty of other brands out there, so it doesn't have to be EB Stone. But this is to lower the pH in soils. So all it is granulated sulfur. And it's derived from elemental sulfur. So before using sulfur, you want to test the pH of your soil. That's the only reason you would use this. And if you have super acid soils, you would want to add like lime to increase the pH. But you need to know what that pH is first. Now, this area, the azalea and camellia bed, I've tested multiple times over the years, and I know that when the leaves start turning yellow, that means my soil pH has gone up to about an 8 or an 8.5, and it's time to add sulfur. So if you have no baseline to go from, you really want to get a pH soil testing kit, which are super cheap. They're just a couple bucks. You can get them in most gardening centers, and also in even just the hardware store. And you can just do that test at home. It'll tell you what the pH of your soil is. Some plants really love acid. Some plants really like more of a medium ground. Most plants really more of a medium kind of neutral pH. The thing about soil pH, it doesn't matter so much, except that when your soil is super alkaline or super acidic, it can actually tie up the nutrients that are in the soil and make them unavailable to your plants. So that's really how the pH plays into the plant health. So in my case here, nitrogen gets tied up by the high alkalinity in the soil. I have very clay soils here, and again, highly alkaline. Our water, city water, is also highly alkaline, so it's just a continual process. So in order to allow, that's why the leaves turn yellow, because they're becoming chlorotic. So in order to allow the minerals that are already in the soil to get taken up by the plants, I need to lower the pH. So that's what we're going to do. And so I have 2 boxes of this. It's pretty heavy. All I'm going to do, it's granulated, is just sprinkle it around throughout the whole beds so that it can then soak through the soil and start lowering the pH, making those nutrients available to the plants. And then within about a week to 10 days, the leaves go from yellow to green. Obviously the yellow leaves drop off, but then the plant itself looks a whole lot healthier, and you can tell it's getting what it needs. So I'm just going to do a quick application of this. It's real simple. I just sprinkle it around. Now there is an application rate thing here. Again, because I'm doing this for like the 30th time, I know how much I need for these beds, but you would want to calculate based on your needs, whether it's a blank slate ground or an established bed, etc. You would want to calculate what you need so that you don't change your pH too much, right? All right, so I'm going to get this sprinkled down, and then we'll move on to the next job before it starts raining, which is resetting my compost pile. The hellebores are already starting. Aren't they so precious? They're very pretty little flowers, and they'll be here through probably March. Okay, this is my huge mess of a compost pile. As you can see, things aren't very much broken down. So I want to pull everything out of here and then rebuild the pile, adding some green stuff so that we can start getting the pile hot again, and some food scraps and stuff. So the challenge in a environment where it's dry and hot all summer is that it's really hard to get compost going because there's no moisture for it. So yes, I can drag a hose over here in the summertime and work on building this pile, but it's actually easier for me to do this in the winter when we're actually getting our rains, so that I can start making layers and the rains slowly percolate down. So the other thing is this is way too spread out. I need to consolidate it to a really tight space, potentially, hopefully, a cubic yard, so 3 by 3 by 3, so that it can really concentrate the heat that it's going to start producing. Now there is some nice soil compost under here that needs to be sifted out, but there's still so much like raw wood and material in here that I'm just going to start from scratch. Crazy how something so simple can make me so out of breath. Okay, so it may not look like much changed, but what I did was I basically turned the pile and added some compost conditioner, which kind of helps jumpstart it again. I added some kitchen scraps, and I found where I had dumped all of the sawdust shavings from the brooders. And so I added that on top. So that's chicken manure, which will help ignite the pile as well. So again, not a huge difference, but hopefully you can see it's a much taller, more compact pile, and still not as wet as I want it to be. So I'm hoping, well, I mean, this area is really covered by trees. So I'm hoping that this rain that we'll get this afternoon will help soak in a little bit more too. I mean, it's damp, but it needs to be a little bit wetter. So I will just keep checking on it, and maybe I'll just keep coming out and dumping buckets of water on it. And hopefully we can get this pile going again. Look at this little vignette back here. You've got the japonica back there, the Camellia japonica. You've got that really beautiful red Japanese maple and the bright pop of color from the fern. And then you've got the grasses and hellebores and stuff. So pretty. Back in the greenhouse, someplace we haven't been in quite a while. So I've got all of the succulents in here for overwintering. Again, I do this not for the cold because they can handle freezing temperatures. It's for the wet because, like I said, winter is our rainy season, and these guys would get completely drowned. They would completely rot. So they stay in here over the winter. I probably only water them once or twice throughout the whole winter, and they do just fine. It's fairly humid in here, so I think it's enough for them. So I'll show you where I've got those laid out, and then I need to prune back, which I should have done when I potted them up, the 4 peppers that I'm hoping to overwinter. So here's one shelf of succulents. We've got some down there as well. And then I've got a few up here. Mostly I just try to find space that's not going to get in the way when in January these shelves get completely packed full of seedlings. So also over here, this is extremely heavy. In fact, I can't even comfortably lift it myself. I have to have Mike do it for me. So I will move this guy over to the corner where there's more structural support once I start needing this heat mat. And this guy, I can just find a space on the shelf somewhere. So the peppers, this is what I need to take care of today. And I will put this green material that I'm going to cut off into the compost pile on top. So these 4 peppers I dug up from the garden, and I'm going to attempt for the first time to overwinter them and then plant them out when it's warm so that they can actually produce more fruit for me. Peppers here take a really long time to get established, even though we're a warm zone. And so I'm hoping that by doing this, they'll have a jump start, and when I put them in the ground, it'll get me ahead in the season, and I'll actually get a decent harvest. But you can see they've been in here for about a month. They're even still putting on flowers. So some of these peppers have been on here for quite a while. I don't even know, I mean, they look okay. I'll probably just take them inside and maybe see if they taste any good. But what we're gonna do, here's a little jalapeno. I think this one, of course I didn't have labels on them, but it doesn't matter. This one's some kind of bell pepper. This is, I think, a Craig's Grande jalapeno. I'm not too worried. Peppers are peppers, we love them. So anyway, what I'm gonna do, and you can see, I potted these up, but look at all this fresh new growth, right? So what I really would like this plant to do is not have to support lots of stems and definitely no fruit over the winter. I want it to put its efforts into root development inside these pots. And so by trimming off a good majority of the top growth, leaving enough leaves obviously for it to continue to photosynthesize, that will happen. And because it's going to be so cold, like tonight we're going down into the upper 20s, low 30s, that will allow these guys to just kind of go dormant, put a lot of effort into developing their roots, and then hopefully we'll have an earlier and much bigger pepper harvest. Okay, so I'm just going to start cutting. I don't have a whole lot of rhyme or reason about this, and that's okay. Again, I just want to remove a lot of the top growth so that there's less stress on the plant. It's kind of like when you propagate plants, you don't want them to have to do a whole lot of work. So you take off a lot of the top growth so that they can focus on new development. And this will be good green material for the pile that I just turned. The other thing about cutting this back is that even though these guys are in the greenhouse over this winter, this greenhouse is not heated, and it does get cold in here. Now, not nearly as cold as outside, but it does get cold. So I have a minimum maximum thermometer in here, and I just looked at it, and it showed that the coldest it has gotten in here so far this year was 38 degrees. So that's still pretty chilly. All right, so there's a little bit more growth here, but there was some nodes that I wanted to leave because they'll produce more leaves. And so this is good. We have one more over here to do. Yeah, this one's had a lot of growth. All right, so there's a leaf node right here. I'm gonna cut just above that, and that will tell the plant when it comes out of dormancy to start producing leaves from that spot. All right, now the other thing to be aware of is because these guys are hanging out in here fairly dormant, you don't want to overwater them. That's what's going to kill them more than the cold. So their soil, I watered them like 4 days ago. Their soil is still moist. They're not sitting in extreme heat. They're not evaporating out all of that moisture. So you want to keep them hydrated, but not soaking in water, or they will rot and die. So hopefully this will work. and I'll be doing this every year. Now I'm gonna go add these greens to the compost pile, and then the final thing I wanna do is set up a tray of greens for the chickens, because they need some greenery during the winter when they're not getting a lot of garden scraps. So, grass for the chickens. You know, my chickens, their run is wood chipped. So they don't have, without me, they have no access to, you know, grass pasture, basically. And while I would love them to have access to pasture, we don't have a property that can provide that. So it's up to me to give them all the greens that they need. Now, I 3 or 4 times a week supplement them with kale and romaine lettuce and, you know, zucchini and broccoli and things that we've eaten, but they're scraps left over. So they get those from our kitchen, which would otherwise go to the compost pile. I've basically been giving it all to the chickens. But I've seen many people do this, and the chickens love it. So what I'm going to do is just set up a tray with some greens for them. And in this case, it's going to be mixed greens, gourmet mixed greens for cats, and cat grass. And basically, I mean, yes, I grow these for the cat as well, inside, since she's an inside kitty. But it's the same thing. So I'm going to sprinkle this whole thing out. It's going to take a little while to grow, but I'll put it on a heat mat, and as soon as we get a nice, good, thick stand, I'll just put the whole tray out there for them to enjoy. Now, I'm growing these the same way I grow my soil blocks. So this is a perforated tray, as you can see under there, and it just sits in this other tray that is not perforated. So to water them, it's really easy. I just fill this bottom tray with water, dip it, and then dump the bottom water out, and they're good to go. So all we have to do now is just sprinkle them on, cover them with a little bit of soil, and water them, because this is very dry. All right, next up on the farm chores list, time to feed the citrus. So it is December, and we are going into some freezing temperatures. We actually already had 3 or 4 days of frost, and so I have a system rigged up here. It's very wet right now, but I'll show you in a minute. To protect these guys whenever we get a frost, I just pull the frost cover over. But what they really need right now is fertilization. So they're producing fruit. There's lots of fruit on these citrus, and we're getting lots of rain, and these citrus are not in the ground. They're in big pots. And so with all of our rain, we haven't had lots yet, but we will, it leaches all of the minerals and nutrients out of that soil in the pots. This happens to anything you have, any potted plant, whether it's inside or outside. So you have to fertilize pretty routinely in order for those plants to get what they need. So if you look here, this is a mandarin orange, and so is this, I'm sorry, not mandarin orange. This is a Meyer lemon. This is a Meyer lemon, and I have a few I need to pick. And then this is a key lime, Mexican key lime. And there are fruits all over these shrubs, which is very exciting, because the frost that they suffered last year, because I wasn't good enough, I wasn't diligent enough, I thought it killed them. Here's a lemon that I'm going to pick. Okay, that's a gorgeous Meyer lemon. Here's another one. And there's plenty more on this tree, which is super exciting, because like I said, we haven't had fruit in ever on these. And so they didn't die. Not only did they not die last year with all the heavy frost, and they looked like they were going to, they were brown and black spaces that were clearly damaged. But I guess with enough care and fertilization, there's one more here, they have given me fruit this year, which is just fantastic. So this is very simple setup. I've got 2 teepees here arranged over the biggest 2, because this little Meyer lemon is very small. The sticks are sunk into the pots, And then I have this frost cloth that's it's very wet right now from the rains, that is attached with clips to the pots. And then, you know, tonight I'll come out, not tonight, but, you know, 5 o'clock or so after the rain stops this afternoon, I'll come out and cover them. And then I have one more clip that like seals it here. And then they stay completely covered overnight. And actually having the water in here will actually help them stay somewhat frost free, which is, I know, oxymoron, but that's the way it works. But they do need some fertilization. And the reason I know that, number one, is because it's that time of year. But you can start to see some chlorotic leaves here, some little yellowing going on. Some of the leaf drop is natural, but when you look at this newer growth, that's yellow, right? So they need some fertilization. So I have here just a basic citrus food. It's a 12-8 for helps promote fruit and green growth on citrus and avocado trees. So I'm just going to put a scoop of this, maybe 2 in the really big pots around the base. And then the rains today will help that soak in, and we should be good to go. Next job, and I usually don't have to do this job until like February, but because we've had a weirdly warm winter so far with not much rain, I need to uncover this tulip bed because look, so those are not tulips, but they definitely need some sun and they need to not be squished by the frost cloth. So there's a chance the squirrels will come in here and dig some stuff up, but we've got something small coming up here. I can't even remember what I planted in here, and I think that's a tulip. It's pretty deep. No, that's not a tulip. Okay, so I'm gonna have to risk squirrels digging this up just so that we can ensure that the plants continue to grow healthily. I'll do the same thing over here. I actually have daffodils blooming in the front garden right now. Now they're the tiny ones, not the ones that I sell, but it's weird and makes me a little anxious because if we don't get enough cold temperatures, all right, this one I probably could have left. That's not daffodil or anything. All right. If we don't get enough cold temperatures, I don't know what kind of tulip and daffodil year we're gonna have. So yeah, it's going down to freezing tonight, but hopefully we'll actually start getting some of our more normal winter temperatures. It's been warmer than usual. Last year it was colder than usual, and we even had snow. So, you know, you just can't tell these days. So the final chore today, farm chore, that's not really a chore. None of these are really chores, they're fun. I'm actually starting some seeds. Yes, I know that sounds crazy, but again, in zone 9B, even though things don't really grow during the winter, I can get some stuff started early, and it takes a little longer to, spider webs, to, you know, start to really get big enough to put in the ground. So I've timed things so that I start things at the right time and it's ready to go out when it's appropriate. Now, one of the ways I've done this is by taking my first and last average frost date and looking at the seed packets. So this is an onion that I'm going to start today, and determining when to sow these based on my my first and last frost date. And so that's individual to me. And even though the first and last frost dates for my zone are published, they're actually different from the ones I have right here at my house and even over at the farm, because we're in a little valley area, and so we actually get a lot colder than just our neighbors up the hill. So we get frost before everybody else does. So over the years I have been keeping, you know, records, and I know when my average frost date is, and it's different slightly by about 2 weeks than the other folks in this zone. So I also have started using a new piece of software called Seed Time. This is not sponsored by them at all, but I will put a link to their software below if you're interested in checking it out. I think you can do it for free for a week, or there's like a basic form that's free. Anyway, because I have so many seeds that I start throughout the course of the year, I've used this for, I'm using it this year. I just auto-loaded everything, just populated everything. It took a while for this coming year, for 2024, for my entire vegetable garden. I have not put the flower farm on that because I haven't really found a way. So with the flower farm, I do a lot of successions, and I haven't really found a way to make the software work for that. But that's fine because I have a different spreadsheet that I've been using for years that manages all my successions and everything for the flowers. So we're good there. But I am actually usually what falls behind is the vegetable garden. I don't plan that as well because I'm so focused on getting all the stuff done for the flower farm. So it's really nice because in the tasks for this week, it popped up that I have to plant these seeds that I put in. And so it's nice because it tells me when to sow, when to transplant. Obviously the transplanting is like, and they give you a window. It's not like today, right? There's like usually a week window. And the transplanting thing, that depends on the weather and like how good the seedlings look, you know, because conditions can change that. You know, it reminds me to cultivate, all that kind of stuff. So it's actually really nice. And then it gives me a projection of when the first harvest should be. And so that's also nice because that allows me to put in additional successions so that I have continued harvest. So today, all that being said, today I'm only sowing 3 types of seeds, 2 onions. One is a short day, that's this Texas early grano, and one is an intermediate day, which is actually better for my zone, for my latitude. This one is Cabernet, and these are both from Botanical Interests. I already have, you're going to probably wonder why I'm sowing more onions, because I have lots of onions already in the garden. But I'm hoping to have a bit of a succession of onions, and also sowing all those ones up front. A lot of them got eaten, and so, you know, there's a toss-up. I want to make sure I have onions, so the ones that are out there now are continuing to grow, and we'll see. It's going to be kind of an experiment. Are they all going to bulb up at the same time? Probably, because onions are triggered to bulb by day length, so it's possible that they'll just all bulb at the same time. But I'd like to see what is the difference between me fall sowing the onions and winter sowing the onions. Is there a difference in when they bulb, how they look, how they produce, etc. So kind of an experiment, but I'm going to do those, and then I'm also going to do 2 6-packs of, if I have enough seed, of this Chinese pink celery. Sorry, this is my tag to remind me what to put what to sow when. This one is a bubblegum pink celery from China. It says it's easy to grow variety, perfect for kids' gardens, etc. I love celery. I love it so much. And I have some growing out there right now. The rodents did a number on it, but it's coming back because celery is basically a cut and come again vegetable unless you're cutting off the whole head. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So this is start seeds indoors 8 to 12 weeks ahead of your last frost date. So we're basically in that window right now. So I am going to, these are surface sown. You just kind of press them into the soil. So what I'll do for the surface sown stuff, I just put a little sprinkling of vermiculite over the top, and that's it. Because generally if a seed wants to be surface sown, it needs light to germinate. So you don't want to cover that up with soil or your germination won't be very good. So I have these 6-packs here. These are the 6-pack from American Tray Company that I got from Epic Gardening. I'm going to go on and fill these up with some of my seed starting mix and get these guys sown and onto a heat mat, and then I think we're going to be done for the day. Well, that's it for farm chores for today. The rain is coming in and it's lunchtime. So this afternoon I'm just going to be inside doing lots of indoor chores. Actually, I'm going to make sourdough cinnamon raisin bread. Interesting recipe from King Arthur flour, so I'm looking forward to that. I can't eat it, but I'm hoping that my family will love it. So yeah, that's what's on tap for me this afternoon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and doing chores. It was a very scattershot video, but that's how it is a lot of times on the farm. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden and you're enjoying the holiday season. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.